Welcome back to Shifted Reality, Season 2, Episode 12. Now, I'm thinking I probably should have built this boat before I put in this boardwalk in the first place, because I come down here, and right here we're at Y level 65, and then this is at Y level 64. So we only need to go up one block to be at the deck level of the ship. And I was thinking about this. You know how at the fish market shop, I have the campfires in the dock to show the underlying support structure of the docks? I should do the same thing here, where I have a little bit of a gap and here and there, just to give this more texture and character to these docks. But then, in order to do that, this has to be in a lower slab position. Right now we're in the upper slab position. So I'm actually just going to raise this one step so it's right up here. But I'm going to have to do that all the way around. And that's going to be a lot of chopping and a lot of movement. And I also need to decide how many campfires I need. And I should get started on making those as well. I've been collecting wood for making campfires for the boardwalk, like I had just discussed. When K and Chaos dropped her very first episode on the server, and I noticed she said she was looking for potatoes. So we're going to swing by. Oh, I remember building this bridge. I forgot about that. Yeah, so we're going to swing by to her place and see if we can just drop off a little gift of potatoes. There we go. Always glad to have a new member, especially someone who is planning to make content, because honestly the content creators keep themselves a little bit more busy on a server and allows us to go a little bit longer, make bigger and better builds. Welcome to the RealSMP. Now, as I'm trying to figure out how many campfires I need to get that understructure look to come out the same that we used at the fish market, I counted out how many sections of boardwalk we have, and I realized one stack would get me about an average of only 2 or 3 bits between each section. I mean, obviously, shorter sections will have less, and longer sections would have more, but averaging out, it would be 2 or 3. And I want them to be a little bit more common than that. So I am going to start with 3 stacks of campfires to see how well that will look. Unfortunately, campfires are actually kind of expensive. I'm not super coal rich right now, so in order to make my coal go a little bit further, I am smelting down some wood into charcoal in order to accomplish in order to get the 3 stacks of charcoal I would need in order to make the 3 stacks of campfires. But then I also need 3 logs per campfire, so that means to get 3 stacks, I need basically 4 stacks of wood for every campfire I want, not counting the wood I need for the sticks. So this has been a little bit of a time crunch, just to grow a tree, cut it down, grow a tree, cut it down. And I guess I probably could have just gone over and, found a forest somewhere, but I didn't feel like it. Alright, but this should be my last tree. And then, of course, I forgot about the stack of wood that would be needed in order to make sure I had enough sticks to make all the campfires. But here we are now. Oops. I have to put a campfire there. There we go. And here we are. Now we can start putting in these campfires as we raise it up a little bit. So it looks like the underlying structure of the boardwalk is visible. And there we go. We just have a little sprinkled in here or there. We don't want to overdo it, but we also don't want to underdo it. So I might need to be a little more careful because we're a little bit heavier on this side than we are on this side. But we can probably correct that when we put more in this way. But otherwise, let's just continue going. We'll take out a section at a time. Add in the new blocks at the higher level. And then we will get going on completing our boardwalk. Here's the problem. I've been placing these all so that the boards run in the same direction. And then when I got over here, I wasn't paying that close, and some of the ones I put down switched direction on me, so I got to take these up. And since I don't have silk touch, I will be losing out on those particular campfires, which I don't know even if I have enough with the 3 stacks I made to get the full boardwalk. And honestly, I'm not really counting that closely. I'm just kind of trying to put in what looks good and appealing to my mind's eye. So we're just more or less winging it. But we'll see where we are once we get around to the far side and how many we have left. I've already gone through from all the way over here to all the way here and used about half a stack. Probably easily use up the rest of it, the stack before I get to the gate, but that should still be fine as long as we have more than a stack and a half before we get to the other side. So I keep falling off my boardwalk as I'm breaking the logs and redoing the height and adding in the campfires. And then I have to swim around a far distance to get back up onto it. So to make my life a little bit easier, I am borrowing a Riptide trident from Stick. However, it only has Riptide 3, so as a means of paying them back, I'm going to buy a Unbreaking 3 and a Mending book from Lasse in order to enhance his trident. So kind of as a payment / thank you for letting me use it. Of course, I probably need to get a few levels before I can actually put the enchantments on here, but we'll cross that bridge in a second. Alright, let's see how much it is going to cost me to enchant the Unbreaking and Mending onto the trident. Unbreaking is 6 levels, Mending is 5. 2 levels to put them together. 9. Yeah, still adds up to the same. Alright. I will trade for some levels and finish enhancing this once I get up to 9. Actually, I am saving levels doing it this way because putting the second book, the price would have gone up from the initial 5 of the Mending to something more expensive, so. And I want to give it some stupid name too. And now to continue with the trading to get it all fixed up. Weird, some of these guys don't seem to have fixed their trade since the last time I had collected enchanting books for the market, but oh well. Either way, we are fixed, and his trident is already and good to go, and this is going to save us so much time. Because now next time I jump in the water, because I have to pick up some slabs or something I dropped, I can simply just go whee! Up and at 'em. As I was working on improving the boardwalk here, kind of break it up a little bit. And I didn't want to have too consistent of a pattern, and you can kind of see a little bit of it, but as we go and add more decorations, it should become less apparent. However, we ended up having disaster strike right towards the end. We had borrowed stick bridges, trident with riptide, so anytime we dropped down in the water, we could just riptide up and get back on land. And unfortunately, at some point I got killed by a baby zombie drowned, and I was able to recover everything in my inventory except for my chainmail pants, my chainmail boots, and my shield, and his riptide trident. I've never seen a drowned pick up a trident that they had not actually spawned with, even though I've actually tried to get them to do just that in the past for various reasons. So I am wondering if maybe it got caught up underneath the boat somewhere where I couldn't see it or find it, or somewhere under the water. But something happened to it that I wasn't able to find it, and I spent the entire Minecraft day looking at it. So it definitely despawned. But otherwise, this whole project is coming along more about where we wanted it to be. As I said, I wanted to have some slips for the ships to pull in and dock and drop out their gangplanks, which is what we have right here. And I know I previously said that this was out of place and I wanted to have one on both sides. Ultimately, I decided, I really wanted it on both sides. I did not like the asymmetrical look of it. However, I ended up needing to add in on this side in order to get it. And 3 just felt like a good magical number for the width here, which then gave this little cookout. I suppose if I could still get a world edit change on here, it would just be to take this whole thing and slide it out 1 block to the right. And then I think that would make it look a lot better, but that is what it is. Fortunately, I do have a trident I can replace for a stick bridge. However, unfortunately, there is only one source of riptide that I have available to me at the moment. And it's one that I was hoping I didn't have to use, but you gotta pay back your friends if you lose their stuff. So I borrowed it, I lost it, I will get you a new one. Ah yes, Green's Legendary Book. The second mending book I had fished up has both mending and riptide 2. I could have used this for my own trident at the beginning, but I wanted to try and avoid using this. However, this is the only way I have to quickly restore what I borrowed from Stickbridge, so I'm going to have to use it in this case. Just means I'm going to have to fish up a new mending book at some point in the future. And exactly the levels I need for it. Wow. Alright, let's get this back to Stick. So I'm just going to return that to him before it gets lost again. At least we know he has been made whole and I can move on, because now that I have the heights and everything ready, I've been able to make it so it's easier for me to get in and out of the water, and I can show you that here in just a second as soon as we get back to our docks. Now that we are all done texturizing the boardwalk and raising it up slightly, we need to put in the slips for each of the larger ships. And I didn't put any along this area because it would just extend too far out, and I would otherwise need to completely pull back and reform the far side of the river, and that's just not a project I'm willing to take on at the moment. But that is something I'm going to need to do at least a little bit, because I do want to bring this section back far enough so at the very least it looks logical that one of those large ships could sail down this river. And I'll probably need to take it out of that side as well, where it kind of creates a narrow spot between the boardwalk and the far shore. And we were also talking about putting a bridge over from that side to this side, and I'll probably build one of these ships again in the river somewhere along here just to get a sense of scale for how tall we need to make it in order to make it so it's logical that the ships can sail underneath the connecting bridge. So that's a future project that we need to do. But right now we are coming along nicely and using this one as our model and our guide. We have added additional slips on the far side of the river. So here's the first one on the near the gate. I didn't quite have room to put a second one here, and rather didn't really want to extend this out the distance that would have been to put in another one. So I just left that as it is and put the second one here. And then I noticed if I put in another one either on the center part or over there, it would start kind of again interfering with that idea that a ship could actually sail into these. I decided to make this area kind of a small safety little spot for individual boats to be moored up as, smaller fishermen. And of course, these are all barrels I'm using as decoration, so this is going to be interfering quite a bit with the villager trading, but, we can work with that. Again, a future project, of course. And I won't fill up every one of these slips with this rowboat just because the boats are entities and then the game has to render all those entities and too many of them can cause lag. But generally speaking, each one of these spots is just big enough to allow you to row your boat in, tie it to the post, and leave it for safety keeping. Alright, I know I want to finish this episode without having this ugly cobblestone wall anymore, so I need to start adding some decorative elements. And unfortunately, I need to kind of wing it with each section because every section is a different length. So I need to plan this out. So like this is 16 between the 2 points. So if I count maybe a gap of 4 here and a gap of 4 here. Nope, that's only 3. Oops. Try that again. And then between the two, I will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 left. But maybe if I bring it in by 1 on each one, so there's a gap of 5 between each side, then I have a gap of 4. So I can work with that. Oop. So I can work with that. A gap of 5 on either side with a gap of 4 in the middle. I should be able to get something looking somewhat symmetrical with that kind of gap. And I'm going to have to kind of make these judgments all the way around as I go through and work around what we have and decide whether or not we're keeping some of the natural terrain that's poking through the wall or taking it out. But let's see where we get with this. Every arch on this is a little bit different because the sections are all different widths. And here we have a case where it was so narrow we just had room to put a wall since that's the only thing that will connect and really kind of fit in. But it doesn't really capture that arch feel. But we can solve that by putting in a trapdoor, opening it, which pulls in the second level of the wall just enough so that from a distance you can still see that little bit of an arch. So I found a concept of a pattern that I liked, and I went along and completed that pattern all the way around the wall, allowing it to kind of break up the general cobblestone look, but also keeping it tied in. And again, we do use cobblestone a lot just because cobblestone is a common building block in vanilla Minecraft villages. And we want to have that same but improved kind of look at times. And that's what we were going with here. And I do like how this ultimately all turned out. And we had a few hiccups here and there with the changes of the width of the sections. But it worked out and we got it all tied together. There's just one problem. The problem being is when I initially was thinking about needing to design this wall, I told myself there was one thing that was vitally important in being included. And that was there had to be an easy way that would work with Minecraft villagers pathfinding to get from the boardwalk area up to the top area built into the wall. Similarly to what I did when I did the shipyard. And the idea was like, I incorporated stairs into it. So you see villagers going up and down these stairs all the time. But when I came over here and was designing this wall, I got locked into this idea of a series of arches and completely forgot about asking the question, how do you get from the docks up to the village? If anything proves that I never really think these things through and build in the moment rather than pre-planning and creative, I really think this demonstrates that. And so now I need to just put in a few ways to get from here up to there that were easily navigable by villagers themselves. Oh man, creepers, I tell you what, you're minding your own business, all of a sudden one drops off the roof and on top of your head. They don't even have the dignity to give you all the stuff back to properly fix the damage. Now, I haven't done too much with this side of the river and the docks just because this side is the least developed part of the base. Once we get in, widen the river a little bit to allow the ships to sail down it. Mainly that area right here needs to be cut back. We'll get back to putting more details in there. But on this side where we're slightly more developed, we just put in some boxes that are just stacked on the decks here and there. And the reason I use hives instead of barrels is because I have enough barrels in various designs. I have fishermen villagers walking around everywhere. Some of them have even started moving on board my ships. Plus I got a cartographer here too, so that's pretty sweet. And we use the arches just kind of as a framework to create stairs that go up. Probably in our next episode, I am going to build something on the top level of this to make it look a little better than just a staircase going down, but future project. All in all, how do you think our village is coming along? I'm missing my goatee. Oopsies. Well, all in all, how do you think our village is coming along? We got this all taken care of, which is admittedly where I wanted to be last week, but sometimes things get you pulled aside, and don't let that get you down. Anyway, if you've gotten this far, be sure to like and subscribe, and leave a comment of other little details that we could probably add to our boardwalk to make it a little bit more livelier. Have a good one, everyone. Bye!